Hey guys, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel and welcome if you are new here. Thanks so much for coming back to watch my video. And if you are new, please consider subscribing to my channel for more of the DIY content on a budget. And I do Dollar Tree hauls as well. Let's get on with these Christmas DIYs that are super easy and fun, and they came out super adorable. So the first one I'm making is a gingerbread sort of village decor. Now I found something like this similar sold at like TJ Maxx, Marshalls, those types of stores, but I knew that I had supplies already on hand that I can replicate the look of this gingerbread village. So I went into my craft stash, and sure enough, I was able to find the items that I am using for this project. All these little houses came from the Dollar Tree, all at different times, and they've been in my stash. I removed all of the contents, all of the paper, any embellishments that were on there with the help of a rotary sander, a rotary sander. And then after that, I just dusted off any of the excess dust. And then I went to town with painting each of these houses, which will essentially become a gingerbread village. I used the color, I believe this is nutmeg brown or chestnut brown. I can't remember, but either of those will work. And this is by Apple Barrel. And this is a perfect gingerbread color in my opinion, but you can certainly use a variation of this tone that you prefer. They have lighter tones that, just really depending on how you want your gingerbread to look like. So the first thing I did here was, in order to get an idea of how I wanted to design these villages, I went on to Google Images and just found an image of some gingerbread houses, and I just printed that out and used it as my reference, since I couldn't exactly use my phone to, to copy or to, yeah, to pretty much use as a reference point, because I'm using my phone to record. So I had to print out the image, and I'm just sort of glancing over from time to time to see exactly how they designed it. And I first off used a pencil to trace, or not trace, but to draw out my design. And the reason I did that was because I didn't exactly trust myself to use the chalk writer or chalk marker. Or actually, this is not chalk marker, this is paint marker. I didn't exactly trust myself to use a paint marker without first, drawing out the designs, just to make sure that I have the look that I wanted. I'm not very good at freehanding things, so this was a little bit of a stretch. So I did need to use something as reference so that I have an idea of how I wanted to design these. And I then traced over the outlines, my pencil markings, using the paint marker. Now you'll see in the following houses that I made, I no longer used a pencil, because I found that using the pencil and then using the paint marker on top of it, it sort of gave the look, like gave like a more of a dirty, muddy look because of the pencil markings. And just by painting over the pencil markings, just sort of dragged the pencil, I don't know how you want to say it, but like the trace marks, and it just gave it more of a muddy, dirty look, and I didn't like that look. So I went ahead and attempted to just go ahead and freehand this using the paint marker, and it came out pretty good, I must say. I wasn't really sure if I was going to have luck with just drawing these out without actually tracing it with a, or not tracing, but drawing it out with a pencil first. But it did come out really cute, and I just proceeded to draw in my designs the way I had seen as my reference. And you can definitely freehand and like just make your own designs, that you want, whatever comes to mind. But I didn't want to end up making the same designs over and over, which is why I thought it was helpful to use something as a reference. And it was just really fun and relaxing just to do this step here, because you can really let your creativity flow if you are good with designing things and drawing. But again, that's not really my strong suit. So um, I did the best that I could, but I think it did come out nice overall. So as you can see, I did speed up the whole process here after the initial house that I made, because I didn't want to drag this on. This was a tedious and long process to draw in the designs and color them in, and you will see after I use a paint marker that I end up using some puffy paint as well. So this is really a fun process. Just make sure if you are replicating this look that you take your design over the top of the roof and the sides and everything, just to give it a more complete look. All right, so now that the drawing and the designs is done, it's time to attach all my pieces to this piece of wood that I painted the same color as the gingerbread houses. It's in that same chestnut brown or nutmeg brown, and it's just a piece of wood sign that came from Dollar Tree that I removed the paper from, the little wording from. I use a combination of Type Bond wood glue as well as some hot glue, just for a permanent hold and like a quick hold. The hot glue will hold your item into place instantly, while the wood glue will keep it attached long term. So I'm sure you can also use just hot glue on its own if you don't have wood glue or any other type of adhesive. But if you want your projects to hold up over a longer period of time, it's advisable to use some other type of adhesive. So this is where I took some puffy paint. This is puffy paint that's in the white color that I had in my stash. I think this might have been really old, because on the bottle it does say white, but when I went to apply it onto my design, it came out more like a off-white, like a cream color. So I think it might have been a really old bottle that I've had, and maybe the color just sort of changed over time. I don't know, but it certainly wasn't like a bright white. I kind of regretted adding the puffy paint because it changed the overall color of the design that I had initially drawn in. It took it from the regular white into this cream colored, but you know, it's okay. We'll roll with it and make do. It'll just look like it's like a cream colored frosting or something. But, you know, if I kept it just plain without the puffy paint and just the paint marker, it would have worked out just fine. But I was trying to add some dimension. I then decided to use some of this Snow Decks. This is from Hobby Lobby. I'm sure you can pick it up anywhere, Walmart or any other craft stores. But I had this on hand and I wanted to give it a try. This is my first time using this product here, and it's really cool. It's pretty much fake snow and it gives it like a dimensional look. It has more of a rough, you know, like a coarse texture to it, giving it more of an authentic snow-like look. I went ahead and added that all over the front part in front of the houses. And then I, you know, just added it wherever I felt like it needed. And then I just continued with the puffy paint on top of the rooftops of the houses, or the gingerbread houses, just to make everything cohesive. And this project was really easy to do. The concept was really easy. It's just very time consuming with all the steps and everything. But again, if you're better at drawing than I am, I'm sure you can whip this out in a flash. But I really, you know, just sort of took my time. Although it seemed like it was quick, I just sort of sped through and put it on like fast speed as I was editing this. Overall, I think this one came out super adorable. I enjoyed making this and hope you guys like it too. So for the next Christmas DIY, this one is something I came up with just using items that I already had on hand. I wanted to come up with a Christmas idea, just using things that I had in my stash because I was trying to use up some of my craft supplies. And I thought, you know, why not create this, we're calling a card holder, like a Christmas card holder or a picture holder, if you will. And I'm just taking some things that I had from Walmart and from Dollar Tree, some bottle brush trees that I've had from since last Christmas, some extras that I had, as well as a Dollar Tree wood sign, and those little mini gingerbread ornaments are from Walmart. I picked up on clearance last year, and you know, I didn't quite use them up yet, so I wanted to go ahead and use them for this DIY. I first took this red color by Waverly. This is Crimson Red, and just gave this a good couple coats, just covering up this wood entirely from front to back, just to make everything look finished. And I thought this one would be a good idea because, you know, we get Christmas cards, sometimes photos, you know, family photos, maybe your kids with Santa. You know, this would be a great place and a great way to display those Christmas items. It might not hold that many, but, you know, you can hold like the ones that you really like or the ones with the cutest picture on it. So next thing I did was took these clothespins. Again, these were from my stash. I've had these for many years. And I just painted over the design. They had like arrows and stuff on them. And I just painted over the design and just in that same red color just to make everything cohesive. And I picked 4 clothespins. I figured that would be the right amount to suit this project. I didn't want to overcrowd it. I also grabbed 3 of these bottle brush trees from my craft stash, and that's about how much I wanted to use that I thought would complement the 4 clothespins. I went ahead and hot glued each of the clothespins, and I kept the bottle brush trees on top at first just to give me an idea of the spacing and how far apart I wanted the clothespins to be. It's just a guide. It's a way for me to know. And after that part was done, I took my little gingerbread houses and just did a dry fit over the front part of it. This was sort of like a last minute idea as far as putting the gingerbread houses because initially that wasn't in my plan when I thought about this DIY, but I figured why not use up these little ornaments that I've had since last year, and they're really cute and they fit in well with my gingerbread decor. So they're really small and lightweight. They do have the little holes on the top, which doesn't bother me, but if it bothers you, you can try and fill in those holes maybe with air dry clay or spackling or something like that. But you can even add a little bow if you wanted to cover up the holes, but again, it didn't really bother me. So after hot gluing all of the little gingerbread ornaments into place, I then hot glued the little bottle brush trees, just spacing them so that they were in between each of the clothespins, and just to make everything line up properly. And that way, when I go to display anything on the clothespins, you can have a good, like where you're able to see the item in between the trees. And this is assuming that you use items or display items that are bigger or taller so that they're not hidden behind the trees. I took the same snow decks as I did for the first project and used, I went back and forth between a really small brush and a regular paintbrush just to get in between all of the gingerbread houses and just adding that texture that I wanted to give this project. I think it definitely completed it because it really gives it that really snowy effect and that wintry look that I like. And this is a really fun product to use. You can use as little or as much as you want depending on how you want your items, your projects to look. But this is definitely something to try if you haven't used this product before. So I went ahead and just completed adding all of the snow in front of the houses. Originally, I was trying to do in between, but it didn't look complete. So I decided to just bring the snow decks all the way to the fronts of the houses and just completely fill the bottom fronts of this project, as well as the sides and all around the bottle brush trees. Again, it's just making everything look complete and like everything ties in better together. So I love how this one came out. It was a super easy thing, easy DIY to do. Didn't take much time like it did the first project, and it's useful, it's functional. Like I said, you can display like a postcard, or even if you collect like vintage cards, you can display a few of those here, or maybe a photo of your kids or your family or anything really that you wanted to put on here. If you also collect like vintage, like those cards, like the flashcards that people like to collect, you can also use this to display that if you wanted to. There's just so many things that you can use this for. If you wanted to use this in the kitchen, you can also use it to hold up, let's say, a recipe card. That would also be an idea. Maybe if you wanted to just use it to display it in like a kitchen vignette, that would be super cute. But anyways, I hope you guys like this idea. This is something I printed out on my printer. And this image came from the Graphics Fairy, and I just printed it on cardstock, and I'm just distressing the edges using this Distress Oxide. It's in the green color, just to give it a little bit more interest. And here is the finished look. I love how it came out. Super customizable if you didn't like the red, but I love how this came out. I think it ties in well with my decor, and I hope you guys like this idea. If you like this idea, please drop me a comment down below. It does help my channel. Every little like and comment does help the algorithm. Moving right along to Christmas DIY number 3. This one is something that I just decided to do last minute. This isn't really exactly just for Christmas. This is a decorative piece that you can keep around all year long. I'm using one of these wooden blessed signs with a beaded hanger from the Dollar Tree I picked up maybe last year. I'm also using some of these birch wood stems that I've had also from Dollar Tree, and these are just some boxwood. They have the sparkliness on them, but you can use plain boxwood. But initially I was going more for Christmas DIY, but then you'll see that it evolves into more of like an everyday DIY. I took some of this Waverly dark wax and just used a wet wipe to apply that onto the wood. And I just take that up all over, including the wood bead hanger. I just wanted more of a neutral base. I kind of tossed around between using more of a Christmas color, but then decided to use more of a neutral color just in case, I wanted to keep this around as a year-round sort of display and not just for Christmas. I decided to use this really pretty moss green color by Waverly. It's a chalk paint, and I just added that to the letters that spell out the word bless. I thought that this would make that pop against the background and everything just doesn't blend in. I thought that it would give it a nice coloring and also give it more interest. And I love the color green, so I'm partial to green. So that's the reason why I chose this color. But if you were to replicate this look, you can certainly customize this to your favorite color or whatever fits your decor. Now that the painting part was completed, I moved on to the next step. I took some sparkly boxwood that I had on hand. I went ahead and took them off of the picks, off of the actual stems, just removing them. No need to cut. I just plucked them right off. And in order to make these longer, I did have to glue two pieces of the boxwood together. So they have a little tip at the end of the boxwood, sprig, where I was able to attach one to the other. But to add some extra security, I did have to add some hot glue just to make sure they wouldn't fall apart while they were hanging. I did this to all the pieces because initially I was just going to hang them as is, but I thought they looked a little odd since they were short, and I felt like making them a little longer in length just gave them a better visual interest. So that is exactly what I did. I believe I made 5 strands, so that amounts to about 10 sprigs of the boxwood to create the 5 strands. And once I had my 5 strands, we'll just call them strands, I had them completed, I had them all glued together. I went ahead and arranged them in the way that I wanted these to hang off of the bless sign. So I thought that spreading them out just like this looked visually appealing. So I went ahead and moved on to hot gluing each of those boxwood strands to the back of this sign here. So I was gluing it with the blessed part facing up because I wanted to make sure I had everything lined up and spread out evenly. But you'll see that eventually after adding hot glue to all the pieces, I wanted to turn it over and added extra hot glue over the pieces just for extra added adhesion. And it's a little harder to see exactly where I'm getting the glue with it facing up like this. But again, this was just for the sake of making sure I had everything spaced out evenly. So I thought this was going rather well here. I thought that this was definitely starting to build up to, my vision. So here's where I took the extra hot glue, just went ahead and added some extra drops to each of those boxwood strands. And then here I'm showing the birchwood stems that I picked up from Dollar Tree some time ago. And I'm just gonna arrange these pieces according to how I want them to be. And they're going to be attached using these eye hook screws or eye screws, I believe is what they're called. I picked these up from Hobby Lobby, and you'll want to grab the bigger of the two. I know the bigger one, I believe, is like 7/8 of an inch, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. But they also sell like a really small one. So I felt like the bigger of the two definitely worked better. It was a lot easier to screw into these little birchwood stems. And yeah, I thought that was a perfect size. So I went ahead and continued screwing in all the eye screws to each of the birchwood stems. And again, these are just going to hang right off the blessed sign in between each of the boxwood strands, and I'm going to take some jute string, which I will insert into the little eye screw and then create a knot. And this is where I sort of had to play around and figure out the proper way of tying this and tying it onto the bless sign without things sort of flopping and, hanging all weirdly. So I did do a little trial and error. I did have to do a little trial and error here, just sort of seeing if everything was hanging the right way. So moving on to the next step, I took these little mini wood discs that came from the Dollar Tree. I'm essentially going to repeat the same thing as I did with the birch wood stems. I just added some little ice screws to these wooden discs. I'm using the same size as I did for the birch wood stems. Some of these were a little bit hard to screw the little ice screws into, so I did take an X-Acto knife just to make a pilot hole, if you will, just screwing that into the wood, softening it up a little bit, giving my ice screw a place to screw into. And this did help out a lot since a lot of the wood pieces were a little bit more tougher than others. So after I was able to get the little ice screws into the little pilot holes, I did the same thing, just added some jute string to the little openings, and then you'll see how I arrange it here on this little decoration. Now that I have all my wooden pieces hung onto this bless sign, I wanted to add an extra added element, and that was these eucalyptus leaves. I thought that it needed something more. I thought that it was missing something. I felt like adding more greenery to it, something that was a little bit bigger and more substantial looking. So I had these eucalyptus on hand. These are really pretty. As you can tell, they're very full, very fluffy. They're not, like skimpy looking or anything. I believe these came from Walmart, but this is something I've had for many years that I've used in my decor. But I thought this would make a perfect eucalyptus stem to add to this display. I just cut off the lengths that I needed to create that pattern and the varied, lengths of my pieces. And all I did was just did hot glue these to the back of the sign as I did with all the other things. And I must say that this definitely completed the look. I think that adding the eucalyptus definitely gave it more of a complete look, added more fullness to this piece, also added more color to it, that green color. I know the boxwood was nice, but it was a little thin. Maybe if I didn't have eucalyptus on hand, I could have also added more boxwood strands to this to make it look fuller, but I really think the eucalyptus gives it a different dimension just because it has bigger leaves and it does occupy more space so that it fills out all the gaps. So I really love this look here, and I love the outcome of this piece. This was super easy and very easy to customize as well. So if you were to create more of a Christmas decor piece, you can swap out any of the greenery stems using maybe some pine stems or juniper stems or any type of Christmas or winter greens that you have on hand. You can even use poinsettias if you wanted to, but I personally love the look of this. This will go a long way in my home decor for all year, and it would be great on a wall gallery. And I really love the look of this. So I'm gonna insert a photo of an inspiration picture, and you'll see exactly where I got this idea from. And this is my version, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to give me that thumbs up. And if you can leave me a comment and share my videos to anyone who'd be interested, I'd greatly appreciate it. For my next DIY, I'm going to share a very simple idea using these Dollar Tree items. This is the wall clings that you can pick up every season for every holiday. And this wooden paddle, it resembles the look of like a cutting board, but it's a very thin sort of MDF material here that you can use as a blank slate for any of your DIY projects. But I'm going to show you how I turned this into a cute decor using some wall clings. And all I did was paint this up first using this Waverly chalk paint in the color Snow White. I'm going to go ahead and give this a good base coat just so that the wood cling or the window clings have a nice background to this, and also it might help the image to pop up a little bit as well. Now this would also be great to paint the wooden paddle in a red color. I did play around with that idea, but I decided to go with white because I am going to embellish this with some other red accents. So I figured I didn't want to do too much red on red. I just wanted to have a nice contrast. I did have to trim up this window cling. I don't know why I can't speak, but this window cling here was a little taller than the board. So I did have to trim off a little bit from the top and sides just to make this fit properly. And I used some Mod Podge just to ensure that the window cling adheres well to the wooden paddle, because the window cling is not intended to stick to any other surface other than a window without the help of some other type of adhesive. So I went ahead and used some Mod Podge. I added a nice thin layer. I didn't want to go overboard, and I didn't add any Mod Podge to the top. I didn't feel it was necessary. This isn't going to be in any area where it's going to be disturbed or get messed up or anything like that. So I felt like just adding some to adhere this to the wooden paddle was just was sufficient. I used my brayer to help smooth out any of the bubbles and just to make sure that the window cling had good contact with the wooden paddle and to make sure it laid really flat. I'm taking some Chanel stems that I'm showing you here. This is the red and white stripe Chanel stems. These were from Hobby Lobby. Actually, I had these a few years ago and in my stash, and I went ahead and just hot glued the Chanel stem all around this wooden paddle just to give it some decorative finish and more interest and more coloring to tie in everything, all the reds and everything together. I thought this definitely gave it a good accent color, and with the red and white, it pairs well with my decorations with the gingerbread and candy cane theme that I have going on. And I did this all the way around. It did take, I think, a few stems to fully cover this entire paddle. The next thing I did was I took some of these mica flakes. These came from Joann's. This is by the brand Ranger. I took some Mod Podge and spread it all throughout this wooden paddle. I wanted to add a little bit more interest and dimension to this, so I sparingly spread some of these mica flakes all around the white background, just again to add some iridescence and give it a lot more interest and make it more whimsical looking. And the Mod Podge will just be a way to adhere all the mica flakes, and then I just tapped off any excess. I did create a beaded handle, as you will see, using one of Dollar Tree's wood bead garlands that they have out right now for Christmas. They have it painted in the red color. And these are the beads right here. These are by the Christmas house, if I'm not mistaken. You can also take some natural colored beads and paint them up yourself, but since Dollar Tree carries these right now for Christmas, I went ahead and just used these up, just made my life easier. I cut off the length that I needed to create the look I wanted for the handle, and I made sure to cut longer than how I wanted my bead to be, because I will be removing the excess from the one of the ends of the strand. That way I'm able to create a knot that will go around this little hole at the top of this paddle, and I'm able to attach this beaded handle, if you will. All I did was just wrapped it around itself, creating a double knot just to make sure it's securely attached. I also opted to add a little dot of hot glue just to have a little more reinforcement. I wanted to add a little bow to this, so all I did was took some red yarn. I'm going to wrap it multiple times around my fingers and then tie another extra piece of yarn to the center to connect all of the loops together, and I'm gonna string it right into that same hole where I added the beaded handle, and then just double knot it into place, and that will finish up that look. I trimmed off the excess, and then the last thing I decided to do was to add one of these cute little gingerbread men that comes in a pack of embellishments from Hobby Lobby, and just hot glue that down the center of the bow, and voila, this is the final look. This was a super easy DIY. I think it came out adorable and would be a great background in my china cabinet. I think it looks adorable and precious, and I hope you guys like this idea. Thank you guys for watching, for joining me today on this video. Please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I appreciate each and every one of you. To all my current subscribers, thanks for your support, and I will catch you in my next video. Thanks for watching.